In southern Afghanistan this week, U.S. Marines were on the hunt for Taliban insurgents. General Stanley McChrystal says he needs 40,000 more U.S. troops to defeat the Taliban, pushing the total to 108,000. Some analysts say if McChrystal doesn't get what he needs, the Taliban will invite al-Qaeda to return to the safe havens in Afghanistan where they planned the 9/11 attacks.
I think it would be a mistake to conclude somehow that if the Taliban came back to power in Afghanistan, that this time around they would be unfriendly to al-Qaeda.
But other analysts disagree, noting that all but about 100 al-Qaeda have moved across the border into Pakistan. Mark Weisbrod of the liberal-leaning group Just Foreign Policy says there's no reason to believe the Taliban would allow al-Qaeda to return. He also says that with casualties mounting in Afghanistan, at least 250 Americans have been killed this year, American support is fading.
It's the 9th year, and people are tired of it. And if we're talking about democracy and promoting democracy, well, democracy begins at home. You know, American people want us out.
All those arguments are a reflection of what President Obama is hearing from top advisors in a series of lengthy meetings in the Situation Room. And now there's another major problem for the president to wrestle with. Afghan President Hamid Karzai is resisting calls for a runoff to settle the disputed August election. Democratic Senator John Kerry in Afghanistan this weekend was interviewed for tomorrow's Face the Nation on CBS.
I don't see how President Obama can make a decision about the committing of our additional forces or even the further fulfillment of our mission that's here today without an adequate government in place or knowledge about what that government's going to be.
Some critics say the president is taking too long to make his decision, but the White House says so much is at stake, it's vital to get it right. A decision is expected in the next few weeks. Chip Reid, CBS News, the White House.
The administration also announced yesterday that the federal budget deficit jumped to more than $1.4 trillion in the fiscal year that ended last month. That is 3 times as big as the year before and the largest shortfall relative to the size of the economy since 1945. To help us put that and the rest of the week in focus, we're joined in Washington tonight by CBS News political analyst John Dickerson. John, let's start by talking about that rather large deficit number. How much does this complicate the administration's ambitious goals?
It's a very bad number, and it does complicate things. It's not a new number. We've known that the deficits were going to be very big, but each time we learn just how big, it complicates the fact that the administration is still spending money, not just on the health care plan. The administration says that's paid for, but there are other elements, extending unemployment benefits, also giving $250 to seniors, and also fixing a part of past budget efforts to pay doctors more than they're supposed to get paid. And that's a key here, which is that they're undoing things from the past that were meant to keep the budget in check, which suggests that any promises they're making now about fiscal discipline have to be taken with a big grain of salt.
Okay, so John, you talked about the health insurance debate there, and let's talk about that for a second, because President Obama, in his address today, really went after the health insurance lobby, saying they'll do anything to kill reform. What's behind his attack today, and where does the health reform debate stand as we head into this week?
It really was striking. Sharp words from the president. What's going on is the health insurance companies have pushed back against reform. And now the White House is using the health insurance companies as a boogeyman. And this is useful politically for the president because Democrats are split over reform, moderates versus liberals in the party. And what the president's doing is saying, hey, let's stop debating among ourselves. Let's all realize that the common enemy here is the insurance companies. The only slight downside for the president is that as he beats up on the insurance companies, a lot of his supporters will say, well, you know, the best way to go after them is to have a government-run public option. And that may be something the president can't deliver.
All right, we'll see what happens. Our CBS News political analyst John Dickerson joining us from Washington tonight. John, as always, thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.